Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mondays with Vish. I'm Grant Cohn. That's Vish Kumaran. And today's show is called An Honest and Fair Evaluation of the 2021 49ers. I think there was a lot of euphoria after the first two wins, rightly so. Two wins are two wins, and undefeated is undefeated. But there were things that we were talking about that showed up again. And now I think it's fair to look at the 49ers through a more sober lens. And that's where Vish comes in. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Yesterday was kind of a interesting day for me because 3:25 Central Time. I'm watching America's Game of the Week, and I'm seeing a certain someone, playing quarterback the exact way I've thought he could play quarterback for the last couple of years, and what I thought he would look like if he was on the 49ers. And it sucks that he's doing it for a division rival, and they're tearing up a really good Tampa Bay team. And then you come to the Sunday night game all juiced up, ready to see the Niners, show out. Home opener uniforms look sick. And it was one of the most disappointing starts to a football game I think the Niners have had in the Kyle Shanahan era, honestly. It felt low energy. It felt like they just came out and got punched in the mouth. We're obviously going to talk about it much more, but a very, very interesting kind of day for me because the whirlwind of emotions were very much up and down.
Well, I think the thing that hurts the most, I don't root for the 49ers, so I found it kind of like interesting, I guess, and almost amusing. Not amusing, but interesting. I think Niner fans looked at it as like, we should have won this freaking game. Hold up. We were at home. We were up with 37 seconds left. Like, that loss was preventable. And I think that's where a lot of I don't know if anger is the word, but frustration. They're still 2-1, but wow, that feels like a game they should have won.
I mean, we're going to talk about it more. I think the bigger issue is that we're going to talk about it. Niners fans have kind of mischaracterized how good and bad
Yeah,
certain things are. Like everybody
that's the
wrote
big
off
one.
Aaron Rodgers after week one.
Yeah.
And week two, that Packers defense looked terrible as well. And it's still not that good of a defense. And, you expect the Niners who are well rounded on both sides of the ball and Aaron Rodgers, who's allegedly
Right.
been washed for the last 2-3 years, according to some Niners
Terrible
fans and even
offensive line.
some
I mean,
Niners
Niner fans wrote
reporters.
him off.
Yeah, even some Niners reporters have wrote him off based on his advanced metrics in 2019 and his EPA. So, because of that, I think a lot of people expected them to just come in and blow him out. And Aaron Rodgers showed why he's a one of one. He's a generational guy.
Okay, so we learned a lot about the 49ers. Let's go through it bit by bit. Let's start with the quarterback, and let's say something nice. We're not blaming Jimmy Garoppolo for this loss. And I don't know if a lot of people did or if that was I feel like a lot of people rushed to Jimmy Garoppolo's defense first thing after the loss. And I think that's fair because he essentially is playing as well as he can and has the first 3 weeks of the season.
I agree with that. And here's the reason why I don't blame him. When I say I don't blame him, it's not like if you told me to assign a blame pie, there isn't some amount of blame that goes to Jimmy Garoppolo. The reason I can is because when I have certain expectations for somebody and they live up to
Right.
exactly their expectations, I'm not going to sit here and jump around and say, ha ha ha, Jimmy Garoppolo is exactly who I thought he was, because he is exactly who I thought he was. And if you told
Every
me that
week.
if that game was going to play out the exact way that it played out, I could have told you that he would have turned the ball over twice. He's
Yeah.
also shown that he is clutch, he is resilient,
Yeah.
and he did drive them down the field, and he did do that to his credit.
He had like three of those
Absolutely.
drives in him every game, right?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
he also missed a lot of throws that I could have told you he would have missed too if you forced him to drop back the way that game forced him to drop back. So, like, and the fumble, sure, it was a Mark Sanchez butt fumble level of catastrophe. It was horrible. It was pathetic. It's not getting talked about
He
enough
threw
how
the ball
bad it was. It was
backwards.
disgusting. But
Backwards.
yeah, backwards. I mean, there's no words for it. But again, we've seen so many boneheaded decisions from him. Like, people are ready to jump on these things where don't blame him for being exactly who we knew he was. We know who Jimmy Garoppolo is. We know what he's good at. We know what he's bad at. And we saw what he's good at and what he's bad at just as much as anything yesterday. And I'm not going to sit here and run around and jump around saying that the Niners saying that Jimmy Garoppolo should get benched, all of these things, because I felt that he shouldn't have started before the season. I mean, I didn't predict it, but I thought the best option would be going with Trey Lance. That was my opinion. And I'm not going to jump around and jump on the bandwagon when Garoppolo does the things I expected. Like the interception, I don't feel it was his fault. I
Fair.
thought it was a great play by a great player. You're
Fair.
a backside corner in quarters and you run to a far hash. Like, sure, If
It's a
Trey
great
Lance
play.
throws that ball, does that get picked off? No, because he throws the ball way harder and way flatter through the air than Jimmy. But
Yeah.
Jimmy's arm strength, is it a problem we've discussed before? Yes or no, Grant? We've talked about it. We know that's a limitation.
It's a limiting
When
factor.
you have two safeties playing split safety 10 yards from the ball so they can fit every single run and essentially have a 9-man box for the run, and you're throwing slants over the middle of the field because that's all you can do, trying to get Deebo Samuel killed, trying to get Brandon Ayuk killed. Is that Jimmy Garoppolo's fault? No, because that's what he can do. And we know what his limitations are. And we know the league is kind of caught up to his limitations. And if you're unable to protect him with a run game and a defense like you did in 2019, right? This game in 2019, the Niners probably win because the defense
Because they have a
was
run
so
game and
good.
defense. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it's not like that. And he played that same exact caliber that he played in 2019. And more or less, that's where I can't jump on him and be like, yes, Jimmy Garoppolo is the reason they lost, because they have opportunities today. He doesn't start himself. We know
real
these
quick.
limitations.
He had 2 turnovers. They scored 3 points off of him. Now that he doesn't get the defense stepped up, but technically those turnovers didn't lose the game. And what's to me sums up Jimmy Garoppolo perfectly is the end of the game. He throws the ball backwards. Okay. He freaking throws it backwards. That should lose the game right there. But he gets a little bit of luck. His defense comes through. They force a field goal, and then he responds and has a great drive and plays really well. He doesn't go in the tank. He's resilient. But so he's like bad and good mixed with a lot of luck. That's Jimmy Garoppolo.
And
he should have thrown that game away with the backward pass.
Mixed with his physical limitations have been apparent. I don't get it, Grant. I don't get it at this point. Like, to me, this is the kind of game that sums up
we had
why.
about Nick Mullins last year. It's the same
This is why I wasn't jumping on Nick Mullins, because I was like, what do you expect Nick Mullins to do? He is Nick Mullins for a reason. He's only so talented. Like,
the difference between Nick Mullins and Jimmy Garoppolo is their bank account, their jawline, and a little bit of arm strength and
he's more gifted,
quality.
Straight up.
But basically, we're talking about the same limitations here.
Yeah, but I think Mullins has a few more limitations.
Well, of course,
a lot.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not trying to do that. I'm just saying it's a similar conversation. We did it all throughout last year. They would lose. People would pile on the quarterback, and we'd be like, "Hey, man, I mean, yeah, he didn't play well, but there's a lot of things going on here." Same thing here. They lost a game. Jimmy Garoppolo was not one of the main reasons they lost it.
Look,
and it's easy to go to the quarterback after a loss.
It's easy to go to the quarterback. Like, when a quarterback is capable of winning that game, I'd go on the quarterback. Garoppolo is just not that player. And I think a lot of people think
they
he's
fell
that
behind
player for reasons.
Yeah.
But look, the way he played in yesterday's game is the same way he played in 2019 in a lot of different games. And they won those games. So people were like, Garoppolo's so good. Garoppolo's amazing. Garoppolo's the best. Ha, ha, ha. They beat Arizona on the Jeff Wilson touchdown. He took him down at the end. But he also threw that boneheaded pick to Jordan Hicks. He threw it through his chest. 2 drives before that. And you know what? The defense bailed him out in that situation, and the defense made a few key stops. The Niners win, and it's Garoppolo up. And now, because the defense and run game doesn't come through for him, it's Garoppolo down, when really it's been Garoppolo medium the entire time. And this team has been about the defense and the run game. And unfortunately, they're not as good as they were in 2019.
And we're going to talk about why
he is, and that's an average quarterback.
Yeah, great stuff, Fish. 501 Club Kenny says, I'm going to need this to be a topic, Iggy. I was at the game, section 217 seat owner. The fan noise and participation was the worst. It threw the team off. Get to your seats, stand up on third down, be loud. I remember when Harbaugh was the coach at Candlestick, they used to have like directions. Do you remember that? You'd be like, quiet, offense at work, or get loud. It was really condescending. Really? I don't think they think, I guess West Coast football fans don't know. I don't know. I would say that the Stanford game I went to on Saturday, like, people were just, it was the quietest game I've ever seen. You compare that to the stuff you see in the South.
You'll see when you go to the Bears game this time. Like, you want to talk about Midwest rowdy, just crazy, all out Bears, beer, football.
Nice. Brats.
Yeah.
Isaac Perez says we're giving too much heat on DeMeco Ryans. Don't you think those 3 PI calls were the difference in the game? Not on him, but the pass rush was good. Yeah, after I slept on it, I got to say the defense, they crumbled at the end. But it was a game because they kept the Niners in it in the first half while the offense did nothing. So you got, and the fact that they limited the Packers to 3 points off 2 turnovers is a credit to them.
Sorry, they're playing 2 fifth-string corners, and they gave up 30 points to Aaron Rodgers, a Hall of Fame all-time quarterback, and they gave up 12 catches, 150 yards to a receiver who might be the best in the NFL. Like,
maybe we should have seen
I
it
think
coming.
the
Maybe we should
reason
adjust our
the
expectations
reason people are so upset at this defense is because of what it was the last 2 years. But
because
they
Salah
can't
was
sustain
expert
that
level.
level of play.
Yeah.
In 2019, they were a historic defense because their pass rush was historic. This
And
defense
their
is still top
coordinator was
15
really
in
good too.
football. It's still
He
a
was
really
a
good defense.
yeah.
Offense has
Salah
to be
was in year
better.
3. He was really good. And he's a chess player. He can think many moves ahead. I'm not sure that D'Amico Ryans has that in his bag. Anyway, yes, it's a step down. And they lost Verrett. They don't have a corner that people are afraid of. I always said that Richard Sherman was overrated, but corners were legitimately afraid of him. Quarterbacks. Because you could beat him a few times, but if there was a miscommunication, he'd pick you off.
Mm-hmm.
Nick says Jimmy provides no spark to the offense and puts way too much pressure on Kyle to call a perfect game. Trey needs to ASAP. He will perform in the offense. We're going to talk about that too, but it does seem like this offense is way too difficult. There's no big plays.
I agree with that, but they also identified that issue. That's why they traded up to go get Trey Lance. So if they're not playing him, I cannot just blame Jimmy Garoppolo and not blame the 49ers organization and head coach, who are the reason Trey Lance isn't playing and the reason that spark isn't there.
Milf Hunter says Ryans has 54. Warner spinning his head and confused. That's actually a topic of ours. We're going to address that in a minute. Thank you. 501 Club Kenny says Kyle choked the game. Might be on the Jets next year. 100. That's hella funny. Imagine that in Kyle's future. I don't see it, but the irony, man, if God had a sense of humor. Garoppolo is consistently average and below average. He does enough to keep us in, but does enough to make us lose. Everyone is to blame, but a solid quarterback would help contain mistakes of others. Forget 2019. Yeah, a guy like Stafford, of course. The thing with Jimmy is he's paid to be more than he is. He's supposed to be a top 15 guy, a guy who can carry your offense if, God forbid, all 5 running backs are hurt, or your defense, you lose Robert Saleh, and the defense ain't what it's coming together under a new rookie. He needs to, but he can't. And that's all right. Well, you chose to pay him off of 7. Yeah. That was on you. He had started 7 games. You paid him.
I'm not going to jump to a realization today that I came to at the end of 2019 in the Super Bowl. Like, this is old news for me. Wow.
Yeah.
Jimmy Garoppolo can't win this game in a fully drop-back game. Like, there's a reason I wanted the 49ers to get Matthew Stafford for a year. There's a reason I said Derek Carr would have won the 2019 Super Bowl.
Also, it's not just his fault. He got hit 11 times in this game. Yeah. I would point that out if it were Nick Mullins. The offensive line isn't built to play from behind. They're not. And I'm not putting it all on McGlinchey. Mac had bad reps. All of them. There was one.
Yeah, the only guy that played a clean game is Trent Williams. He played.
Well, I was going to say there was one play. I don't know if it was his fault. I saw him blocked down, and someone came unblocked and hit Jimmy Garoppolo. That one hurt. I'm not saying it was Trent Williams'
fault. Preston Smith.
I mean, he was getting hit all from all directions. So, don't blame Jimmy Garoppolo. He was tough. Yeah, he's gonna. Quarterbacks turn the ball over. He's got 3 turnovers in 3 games. We're going to discuss not whether he's playing himself out of the job, but if this team is good enough, if to justify not playing Lance at a certain point. But we're not there yet. Hold on. The donations are coming in quick, and I want to get to most of them before we move on. Jeremy says, I love you guys, but I'm not letting Jimmy off the hook. They were down 17-0. He's just not good enough. Fumble to boot. Yeah, but it's not just him. It's the whole offense, the run game. It's the run game too.
We know he's not good enough if the run game isn't performing and if Kyle isn't scheming it up at the highest level he can. We've been telling you that even when they were winning football games.
Yeah, this is not a new revelation. Moose says if we lose to the Seahawks and Cardinals in the next 2 weeks, will Trey be the starter? I don't see a Jimmy-led offense keep pace with their offense. Seems like Kyle's really digging his heels in. It doesn't seem like some coaches might sit back and watch and then make decisions. Kyle seems like he has his mind made up, right? No matter what happens.
Look, I have totally misread this situation so far, so I'm not going to continue to predict on questions like this. I thought they would have a short leash with Jimmy Garoppolo, and here we are, 2 terrible first halves later, and Trey Lance has played 1 snap in each. And Kyle Shanahan is pretty convinced that he didn't have any field to put Trey Lance in either ball game. So I don't think that bad games against good teams like Arizona and a historically good team like Seattle is going to change that unless Jimmy Garoppolo totally goes first half against Miami from last year.
The Goose says, do you believe Jimmy's starting job is on the line this home game against the Seahawks? Let's not dismiss this right off the bat. I think it's interesting because there's always what Kyle wants, but then there's what the team wants, what the fans want, what the organization wants. And this is a home game. If Jimmy plays in this game against the Seahawks like he did the last time he played the Seahawks, he could get booed. It could get ugly. And I don't know, it could become more difficult to keep him on the field. It could become easier to move Trey Lance in there. At a certain point, there's gonna be. I mean, Steve Young's been saying it all year, but there's gonna be more and more people saying, "What is going on? Why are they sticking with this?" I just think there's gonna be more pressure.
One of the coolest things, and I'm just going to say this, like a little bit different from it, because you talk about what Steve Young's saying. I think it's funny because a lot of people, like, when I conversate on Twitter, they get real mad if I have an opinion about something. But my favorite and maybe the biggest vindication I get from most of my opinions is that I go see that Steve Young is saying almost the exact same things. Like when I was talking about Matthew Stafford, if you remember, Steve Young had like 4 different radio appearances where he talked about, oh, that would be amazing. That would be an upgrade. He's one of the most underrated quarterbacks, all of that. And then when I said, Trey Lance should start, why do you do this? Why do you trade up for a quarterback when you clearly don't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo and then start Jimmy Garoppolo and everybody's, you read this wrong. You don't know. You got 49ers and a few other people, saying like he was going to start the whole time. My fake sources were telling me blah, blah, blah. And Steve Young says the same thing. And I'm like, okay, cool. At least somebody way smarter than me and way more accomplished than me reads the situation a similar way. So
I always feel good to be on the same side as seeing things the same way as Steve Young. He's a freaking lawyer. He's very analytical. Plus, he played the sport, was really great. I'm on his side. Isaac says it's the little things that KS does that pisses me off. First, the play of the juice TD drive. Debo did a swing route, incomplete pass, use him downfield.
They were just trying to get the ball to the perimeter because they were unable to stretch this defense horizontally at all.
I said that was going to happen with Sermon. I said that. I predicted it. Scotty P. Naughty says no double coverage on Adams with 37 seconds left. Lost game. I actually thought, no, on 37 seconds left, they did not have double coverage. That's true. They went quarters. That was a mistake. You don't even have to go You don't even have to go double. So if you go too deep, man under, we're going to talk about that later. It's just very hard. You have safety help over the top. You have trail coverage underneath. It's just hard to fit balls in anywhere.
So I disagree, but we'll talk about it a bit later. So
you disagree? All right, that's fine.
I do disagree.
It was a proud moment last night hearing Vish cuss. Oh, you had to be there for it. That was after hours.
If you meet me in person, I have a little bit of a potty mouth, but I try to keep it contained.
Me too. We try to for the kids. Andrew says jet sweeps are stupid. If you are gonna run the ball, use a running back. Okay, you know what? We're gonna take the rest of this stuff. We're gonna take the rest of our questions in a minute, but we gotta. I mean, it's the running game. I'm gonna set you up, but it's not good. They're averaging less than 4 yards a carry for the season. That's big picture. There's no creativity. I mean, obviously guys are hurt, but usually they said that I could run for 100 yards. Remember, Niner fans say I could run for 100 yards in this offense. It's all about the scheme and the blocking, and those blockers are there. The same schemers are there, and this run game just looks weak. And then this particular game, the usage of personnel got me, and this is a smaller point, but Trey Sermon's playing. He's really struggling. He had a 16-yard run. Other than that, he had pretty much nothing. He dropped that ball off his hands like he's Edward Scissorhands. Why don't you give another running back a shot? Juszczyk dives up the middle on 1st and 10. That's not really
look explosive.
Yeah, I mean, you called up Kerryon Johnson. You signed Jaquez Patrick. Why one carry? And you got that other guy, Trent Cannon, at a 60-yard kickoff return. I mean, 10 carries for Trey Sermon. He didn't need 10. That's one thing. So but that's a minor point. What are you seeing from the run game in particular and the offense that averaged 4.6 yards per carry in this, 4.6 yards per play in this game, and 4.5 yards per play in the last game, which is way bad, way below average?
Well, I think there's 2 issues. One, I think they're seeing a lot more different fronts, and they did last year too. And I think those fronts are making it very difficult for them to run the football. And they're kind of getting got in terms of a game plan aspect of how they're trying to set up their run game. And 2,
amazing how defensive coordinators catch up. You just got to give them a year or 2. They do it.
And yeah. And 2, and I think this is the most important thing. Their running backs are not very good. They're really not very good. Yeah, they're not good. I mean, we saw they played some tough runs, right? Like Green Bay had a really great plan on how they were going to approach this run game, and they executed it well. Philly's got a good front 4, especially inside, and they had a lot of guys shooting gaps in this run game. and making plays. And they were actually able to really stop this run game with their front. They ran the ball well against Detroit, but even I think it could have really skewed the numbers in terms of how it looks, because if Raheem Mostert played against Detroit, those 105 yards that Elijah Mitchell got are 220 for Raheem Mostert. Elijah Mitchell left a lot of runs on the field. I mean, there's a really good stat that's rushing yards over expected. It's like completion percentage over expected. And Elijah Mitchell was like 20th on that list through 2 weeks, and he really struggled. And it's one of those cool stats that actually line up with what you see on film. And what you see on film is that Elijah Mitchell really just is fast and he throws his body into holes, but he doesn't have Mostert's feel and kind of glide to find the open space, find that little crease and explode through it
He's a
and
little bit
create
like
bigger
Matt
runs.
Breida, but I think Breida's probably
I think
better.
Breida saw it better too.
Yeah, I think Breida's probably better than
I've
Mitchell
heard.
too.
Someone on Twitter was comparing him to Tevin Coleman. I think that one's a little bit too harsh, but I can see where that comparison comes from, because Coleman was a good player early in his career before those lower leg injuries really got to him. So
He's like Breida with a little less juice.
yeah, and I think they're not very good. They're not very good in pass pro. They've really struggled in pass pro this year. I think the only decent pass pro pickup I've seen was Hasty getting a half block in the Detroit game on the big play to Deebo Samuel, and even that he got run over, but at least he put his body there and was there. I mean, the best job in pass pro has been done by Kyle Juszczyk, who did it yesterday. He was fantastic yesterday. So I think one, these running backs aren't very good, and two, I just think.
Let me add something to that real quick. I think another thing is what Swan Song said on the post-game show last night. How like this is the one offense in the league where you can see all 11 defenders on the opposing defense on the TV screen.
I talked about it. I mean, they're playing split safety coverage, but both safeties are playing 10 yards from the ball. You don't see that. That's massive.
And for the layman out there, what is that doing? That's shutting down. That's like 9 men in the box, right? And why are they doing that? Well, how can they do that?
They don't believe in this pass game. They don't believe you're going to beat them over the top.
Right.
They don't believe in your receivers.
That's the consequence of constantly throwing short.
Receivers running by their corners, and they don't believe in your quarterback. That's all it is.
That's the consequence. If you can't throw down the field, then slowly your running game dies, because the defense just comes closer and closer and closer. It's what happens slowly.
And you know, more or less, that's been one of their issues. But I can't even put it all on that, because
it's not all on that. It's just one of the contributing factors.
Yeah, Packers did have good fronts, and I just feel like the running backs aren't running as efficiently as they have been in the past. Like compared to 2019, they technically had running back depth. Breida would be the best back on this team with an injured Mostert. And Tevin Coleman, honestly, what he was at the start of 2019, I know he wore down later, but if you remember what he was in that Carolina game, the Browns game, how explosive he looked, he might be the best running back on this team over a Hasty, over a Mitchell, over a Trey Sermon, over all of these guys. And so the comparison to 2019, like there's only so much you can do schematically. Like the running backs have to execute. Running the ball is it's a lot more than just, you know, you draw it up and they run it well. And I think that's what they're going through. They're going through a lull, and they can't bail themselves out with their pass game.
Yeah. Also, though, like the point about the front that you made is so good. Like in the past, especially 2019, they would play teams from like the NFC South or the AFC that just had no freaking clue. Like when they played the Panthers, they put up like 50 points, like running like Naval Academy play. Like they were messing with them. Now, the last two opponents they faced have had the same front. Like,
you know why?
Know what? If you're serious about beating the Niners, you play that 5-man front.
You know why? Because obviously this is the most intricate run game of all the Shanahan run games.
Yeah.
But they all, like 50% of the NFL runs a based. They major in running this outside zone style run game. The Niners are the most intricate, but they all still major from the base of outside zone.
Right.
And if you can't,
which means you're trying to get to the perimeter, you're trying to get to the edge, you're trying to get outside the tackles.
But if you can't stop this run game in the modern NFL,
sorry, my mom's watching. I'm just trying to lay this out.
No, absolutely, I understand. My bad, but
it's all good.
If you can't stop this run game in the modern NFL, and you don't have a plan to stop this run game, you're going to lose to 50% of teams.
And how do you? What's the starting point for stopping the outside zone, Fish?
I mean, you got to shoot gaps. You got to have big defensive linemen that shoot gaps.
You got to set
the
you can't let them to the perimeter. You can't let them. You got to force the cutback into your defense. So anyway, that's what's up with the running game. There's a lot of things. One, a lack of creativity. Two, a lack of talent. Raheem Mostert actually was really good. Three, a lack of space because of this passing game. Not all Jimmy, but partially Jimmy. And yeah, those are three big ones.
And
Oh,
that's where
and the league catching up schematically.
and
The league catching up
you know why I thought the league couldn't catch up schematically? You know why I thought this could be the best run game in NFL history?
because of their first round pick, their
The
second round pick,
quarterback.
their third round pick. Yeah.
You add a quarterback run game element, all of a sudden it becomes different because if you play a 9-man box, you're playing 11 on 11.
Yep. I just yep. Anyway, the threat of Trey Lance throwing deep, I think, would just back people off. I just feel like what you're seeing right now, and I don't want to do this too much, is defenses are like on they're teeing off. Like, they're attacking the Niners offense. And
Yeah.
with Lance, they'd be more on their heels because, oh, we got to spy him. He might throw long. I mean, yeah, he's kind of wild, but there's so many things we have to think about. It's like calls we can't do. You're just more on your heels. It's a
No,
more conservative mindset.
you know
Although
what? You
watching
know what?
Justin
You know
Fields
what
take
this
7
is?
sacks, I'm not sure that Trey Lance would be better. I'm not saying he would.
You know what this is, though? You know what this is? This is the proactiveness. Again, I mean, a lot of people saw this coming. I'm not going to sit and toot my own horn because a lot of smart people were saying this. Like, the way the 49ers offense functioned in 2019 doesn't work in 2021. Just because you won a lot of games with Jimmy
Yep.
Garoppolo and you are still 2-1 and you're still a good football team, let's not lose sight of that because
Yep.
both of those things are true. But just because you won a lot of games in 2021 playing a certain style with Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't mean, or in 2019 doesn't mean you can do it in 2021. There's a reason the Rams and Sean McVay ran away, even though they still won 11 games with Jared Goff last year. Jared Goff was still effective in like 70% of their games last year, but they felt that it's no longer sustainable to keep running this gimmicky offense based around bootlegs and RPOs and all these short passes and think that you can continue to do it. They felt like defenses were catching up to them. That's why they went and got a quarterback who defenses can't catch up to. At the end of the day, whatever a defense can do to stop the McVay run game, you can't account for Matthew Stafford throwing 18-yard in cuts through a keyhole. And that's why the 49ers also went and got a quarterback, because at the end of the day, Garoppolo has his limitations, and we're seeing those limitations.
Okay, we got to answer a bunch of questions. Jose says juice 1 yard run, clock a bit more, then get the TD with the quarterback sneak. But at the same time, defense should have had it. Do you put that as bad situational awareness on juice?
No.
No.
How do you know they're going to get the ball in at the 1 yard line?
I think there was a different issue on that play. We're going to talk about it later. Milf's Hunter says, here's $2. That is so nice. Thank you. Keep hunting. Todd says, Jimmy is playing exactly as we all talked about. He's not terrible, but he's not good.
Yeah.
Todd, well put. Trey Sermon is trash.
I wouldn't go that
burden
far.
of proof
That's
is on
harsh.
him to prove. So far, the returns are not good. What you talking about? Willis says 37 seconds left. No timeouts. Couldn't gold kick to force the Packers to return the ball to kill the clock.
Grant brought this up earlier. So
We were talking.
Yeah.
Wow. Who are you? Because honestly, that was an ace up my sleeve for later. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. The thing that was interesting about how the Niners lost in those last 37 seconds is there were a few critical errors, I think, that happened. It's not necessarily all D'Amico or all Kyle for the also there's a special teams element too. Good stuff. What you talking about? Milf says linebackers and strong safety will have kill shots on Debo and Ayuk. Yeah, you made this point.
They took them. You saw it yesterday.
Yeah.
And you know what else doesn't help? The fact that Jimmy Garoppolo puts all of these slants on Debo Samuel's helmet, so he's catching the ball right here and getting blindsided.
That is true. Kyle says we need to trade Jimmy for a DB. The Jags just sent CJ Henderson to the Panthers for nothing. Why aren't we making moves? I would have taken CJ Henderson. The fact that the Panthers got him, it's like, dude, well, it means that's probably the right thing to do because they're making all the right moves right now.
Panthers defense, once J.C. Horn comes back, you get Dante Jackson, J.C. Horn, and maybe you resurrect C.J. Henderson.
Woo. And a plot twister here, the Niners, all Niner fans thinking like, first of all, they're definitely making the playoffs this year. It's just like, are they going to win the Super Bowl? Well, they could make the playoffs this year, but they're going to have to compete with Carolina for that. And Carolina's 3-0. So I think that's very interesting. Trade for a real cornerback, Stephon Gilmore or Byron Jones. Yeah, before the season gets out of hand, man, you guys are 2-1 now. Randall says, after last night and after Panthers signed CJ Henderson, I am now in the camp that says let Jimmy go and use that $27 million to sign a cornerback, running back, and more.
Yeah,
now
done it in the offseason.
Now, Randall, I appreciate you, Randall. But yeah, for sure. Try to tell you. Domain says, quarterback situation has always been about the players. Vets on the team still love Jimmy. And until they're ready to move on, Kyle is standing pat. Real quick, I think it's a very interesting dichotomy. The Niners and the Rams both lost the Super Bowl. Rams the year before the Niners. The Rams are a totally different team now. They have some carryover, but they're essentially a totally different team. The Niners are trying to recreate 2019 when they lost. That's the Super Bowl hangover.
The Rams only have two core players from the Super Bowl team, Aaron Donald and Andrew Whitworth. Rest of the players, Roger Saffold, he's in Tennessee.
That's your point.
Marcus Peters, he's in Baltimore. Aqib Talib, he's in the booth with Gus Johnson.
Yeah.
Dante Fowler, he's in Atlanta. And you know when they rebuilt this team? They rebuilt the team halfway through 2019. They realized this 2018 redo of 2019, it's not working. Buy Aqib Talib, you're going to Miami. Buy Marcus Peters, you're going to Baltimore. We're going to bring in Jalen Ramsey. And in 1 year, they were able to turn it around. And then last year's core was Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey. You still had Goff. You still had Whitworth. Todd Gurley was gone. You had Cam Akers now. And then this year's core, bye-bye Goff. It's now Matthew Stafford. You still have Whitworth, Donald, Ramsey. They changed. It's a totally different Rams team.
Yep. Trey Sermon stinks. Carlos Hyde vibes. The more I watch the offense, doesn't go without 4-4 speed running back that can stress the edges. Breida, hey, you up. The thing about, I'm with you on this, and it's like Trey Sermon may be effective in an offense with a killer quarterback, dual threat, and a really good center and a really good guard. I think it's what the Niners were going for. But what this team has is a great blocking tight end and two really good offensive tackles in the run game. So that's, just like speed pairs really nicely. It
pairs
and
an incredible fullback.
Like a steak and a nice cab. They just go together. And that's why I don't know if Mostert would be great on every offense, but with Kittle and Trent Williams or Kittle and McGlinchey, he's perfect for them. Perfect. And Sermon ain't. So when I heard this week that, the Packers giving up 9.2 yards per carry, I was like, well, that doesn't matter in this game. That is
that up. I brought it up on the edges because Mina Kimes was the one who gave that stat. And
it's a great stat.
It is an unbelievable stat. And they didn't challenge. They got whipped trying to challenge them horizontally. And it wasn't just in the run game. They couldn't do it with jet sweeps. They couldn't do it with Debo. They couldn't do it with Kittle. They couldn't do it with Ayuk.
Could Kerryon Johnson get one carry?
Trent Cannon.
Good.
He looked explosive.
I'm just saying.
Although getting tackled by Mason Crosby, that was so disappointing. Getting pushed out.
Oh, Trent Cannon?
Yeah.
I'm talking about Kerryon Johnson. I like Kerryon Johnson. I know he hasn't been the same, but I'm just saying Trey Sermon couldn't have been much worse. He had like -3 yards anyway. Sugar Shane says, should we talk to Denver for TBs? They're deep and we can send them picks and go all in.
What picks?
Sugar, we're saying I think this is a hole the Niners dug for themselves, and it's hard to dig yourselves out at this point. This is a 3 to 4 year. This is like not doing your taxes for 3 years. The IRS is coming. It's hard to get yourself out of this.
And this is still a really good football team. Like, let's not lose sight of that. They have a lot of really good players, and they lost to a team that's been in the last 2 NFC Championship games, and they competed after a 17-0 hole. This is still a really good team. I think the reason people are disappointed is because this team is not 2019. But if you wanted to know that this team is not 2019, well, when I said that on Twitter Spaces 2 weeks ago, I got yelled at by a bunch of people. It's just what happens in the NFL. The same.
Yeah, I think I overreacted on the defense last night. I think it's probably a good defense. They went up against Aaron Rodgers. It's a good defense, not a great defense. It's a talented defense with a rookie defensive coordinator. It's not a good. The last 2 weeks, the offense has not been good though. That's the thing.
You know what the comparison is? You know what the comparison is? The comparison is to 2019 when they were an elite defense. They will still finish top 12 in the league in just about every metric by the end of the season. I believe that 100%. Yes.
Okay.
And if you have a top 12 defense, I don't know about that, but if you have a top 12 defense, you have a good defense.
Yeah. Absolutely. Preston Reynolds says, I blame Shanahan 100%. Offense has been coming out stagnant. Jimmy playing as hard as he can with improv plays and not having a running game. What do you expect from bench? I wanted to make this point real quick. Jimmy Garoppolo has outperformed Kyle Shanahan through 3 games, in my opinion. It seems to me that with considering what each person is capable of, Jimmy Garoppolo is coming much closer to filling his capabilities than Kyle. I'll put it that way.
He's probably outplaying his capabilities, honestly. He's made more probably off-schedule plays than we've seen in a while. He's probably progressed out of bad decisions, especially late and down, better than we've seen in a while.
I mean,
Yeah,
throwing
he's
backwards
probably
wasn't his best decision, but that was his first bad decision of the season, I would say.
yeah, pretty
Throwing backwards.
yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much. I'd agree with
pretty
that.
much. Because
The throwing backwards was Mark Sanchez butt fumble level. That was awful.
he threw backwards. He threw backwards. He did. But that was the first bad decision. I mean, it happens. It
I mean,
happens.
yeah,
But I heard
I don't
again.
know
I'm
what
with
they
you on this, dude. Kyle, no, real quick. Again, I had 4.6 yards per play against the Packers and 4.5 against the Eagles. That's horrendous, man. That's worse than Chip Kelly. That's like Jeep Chris numbers. That's horrendous. And
and
that's
let's not
way
forget
that's Kyle it gets yards in his sleep. What is this?
and let's not forget this Packers offense is not good. Or defense is not
Defense? No. Sorry.
they're missing their best player too, outside of a second best player. Sorry, Jair Alexander is by far their best player, but they're missing Zadarius Smith, who is their second best player.
And it didn't matter because they
Yeah.
smacked Jimmy Garoppolo. Michael Young says we never tried to establish a run. They were calling dives for use check on first down. Come on, man. That can't have been your game plan for the running game. You knew you didn't have your usual running backs, and that was your plan. Like, oh, we'll just dive for 4 yards. Like, what? I just felt like a kind of a mail it in game plan. Like him and Mike McDaniel used to have the most impressed. They were like works of art. Like they would sign it afterwards.
And they would set people up, and it felt like
what
they
the
knew
hell is this?
Yeah,
we just gave up. Oh, we can't. It's like, well, we can't call any of these great concepts that we've been working on for the last 4 years and developing. So we're just gonna do a bunch of stuff that doesn't work and say, well, we tried. I don't know, man. Establishing the run, yeah, they didn't do it. Did you hear Collinsworth drop the nugget that Jimmy said the offense was simplified for Trey Lance? That tells me that Lance was supposed to be the day one starter. Thoughts? I didn't hear that. I'm in the press.
I didn't hear that either. That's interesting.
What a shit show. I'm sorry. They're 2-1, but are you kidding me? So that's the problem. It's Trey Lance's fault.
Let me say something. If he says that, and this is true, then I'm more confused than I've ever been. I know some people think that they know exactly what's going on in this situation, and they've been right in every single front in this situation. But I'm telling you, whatever they think has been right and whatever this situation, the way it's gone, has been nonsensical. It does not make sense. If any other team did exactly what the 49ers have done with the quarterback situation, with random nuggets like this coming out every other week, and they were doing it, I think most people would be ready to jump. I think all of us are just waiting because we're thinking there's no way Kyle Shanahan, there's no way he's just throwing darts at the board. He's got to have some master plan that'll all make sense. And we're waiting for the reveal. And I'm just getting more and more disappointed by the minute that the reveal is never coming.
VIsh, 49er fans, everyone around the world, imagine if this Niners scenario were playing out with the Rams right now. If there was
they
a
kept
bizarre
Jared
world
Goff and traded everything for a quarterback.
If there were a bizarre world where the Niners had Stafford right now, and the Rams kept Goff and traded up for Trey Lance and didn't play Trey Lance and kept Goff, and he was still exactly the same as he was the last 2 years, we'd be like, that team what are they doing? But it's here, and we trust Kyle Shanahan. So I think we've given him the benefit of the doubt up to now, and there's going to be some skepticism in the future if things get weird. Fair to say Bosa's performance highly exaggerated versus third string left tackle, was creating pressures, but A-Rod sidestepping with ease, throwing dots, rushing without purpose. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Let's get back to our topics because we've only done 2. We're going to finish up the offense. What did you think of the way Kyle Shanahan used Trey Lance in this game?
I thought he was effective both times he was in the game.
Yeah.
I thought the most creative run play was the QB sneak with Juice. Was it 3rd and 1? Yeah, It was 3rd and 1, and it's set up by having Trey Lance, who was just pure eye candy on that play. Nice of Trey, looked good in the uniform, came out, and looked
good. They could do
and
more of that with him as eye candy. They could do more of that.
And 4th and goal was a nice play. He ran it in. It was a good, strong finish to the half, and it was exactly what they needed. It was a got to have it. He scores a touchdown, doesn't score a touchdown. They schemed it up, used him. It was effective. I don't know what else to say, but what do I think of how the 49ers use Trey Lance? I don't even know what they're using him as. I thought he was going to be Taysom Hill. He's not even Taysom Hill.
No. I mean, I like the way they used him in the red zone. He got a touchdown run and he threw once. That was kind of I'd never seen a guy did a little pirouette by design, spun around.
Yeah, right.
And he got the flag. They got the pass interference both times.
Right.
Again, like you're stressing the defense and they're on their heels and it didn't work out, but they had to commit a penalty. I mean, they were panicked. Not
Yeah.
panicked, but they were stressed. And he put that stress on them. So it worked those times. The only other thing was probably 4th and 1 at midfield would have been another good time to use them as opposed to punting.
Yeah. I mean,
I'm
we're
just
going to
saying.
talk about 4th and 1 in the midfield, but to me, it's
Yeah.
inexcusable for not going for that in the modern NFL. I don't
Yeah.
care what your quarterback is or what your run game is. It's inexcusable in the modern NFL to not go for that.
Okay.
You
So
have to have a million ways to get 1 yard.
agree.
And
Okay.
your
So
quarterback just dominated. Quarterback sneaking.
yeah.
Last week, he did it what, 10 times or 6
Yes,
times
he
or
did.
whatever?
And they didn't. Yes. Okay. So we like how the Niners use Lance, but they're not using him very much. And subtopic, is this justified? Like the whole thing was, it's a Super Bowl team. You can't just put a rookie out there to play him. Like this team has Super Bowl aspirations, and he's just going to have to wait his turn the way Steve Young did, and Aaron Rodgers did. So now we've seen 3 games. Let's go through it. I mean, how talented and deep is this team in actuality?
It's really good. There's no doubt about it.
It's a lot of talent.
It's not the 2019 team. That
No.
2019 team was the best in the NFL, top to bottom. This team is just another very good team in the
So what did that
NFL.
team have that this team doesn't have?
They had much better running backs.
Yeah. Like
They
Matt
had
Breida
a
would be the
much
best
better
running back on this
defensive
team right
line.
now.
They had a better defensive line. They had better corners.
Who they have in the defensive line that year that they don't have now?
DeForest Buckner, Ronald Blair.
Oh, DeForest Buckner.
D Ford.
Yeah,
was
we'll
when
talk about
he
him more
played
later.
that
Yeah.
season. Yeah, but
Yeah.
no, but more or less it wasn't. And then the linebackers. Like I know people ripped on Quan Alexander a lot, but Alexander, Warner, Greenlaw was a much better linebacker trio than Warner, Alshire, Harris. That's just a plain fact. And so more or less they're missing a lot of pieces. So it's not the way 2019 was. That's the important thing. Now, how deep and talented it is. I think it's still a really good roster. It's a good team. They're still 2-1. Of course, they played 2 teams that I don't think are going to do very well when all is said and done, and they beat them. So they're beating the teams they have to beat, and they beat a team that I think will be playing at least after 1 playoff game round in January. I think the Packers will win at least 1 playoff game. So they're right on track. Like they lost to 2 good teams. They beat 2 kind of not so good teams, and they lost to a good team. Excuse me, I couldn't say that. But my point more or less is, and where I always stood on this situation is that I think there's a very defined ceiling with this team with Jimmy Garoppolo. I've been saying it for a while. I felt like 2019 was the season. It was the one of one chance that you
Yeah.
can win
Everything
playing that
broke their
style
way.
and
Yeah.
doing what you can do. And he struggled at the end of that football game in ways that you just can't struggle if you are a guy of his skill set. And they lost that game. And I didn't think they could recreate that in 2020. I was pretty adamant about that. And I don't think they can recreate it in 2021. And my thing is Jimmy Garoppolo maybe going to win a couple more regular season games than Trey Lance? Possibly. But I don't think this team is about 2021 anymore. I think it's about 2022 and 2023 when Trey Lance is in the middle of his rookie contract, because that's when you can restack this team and rebuild a new version of 2019. Because I was talking about this on my Twitter Spaces yesterday. I think I don't know the exact number. I meant to research it, but there's less than 20 players on this team that are signed in 2022. So the roster that Trey Lance will be playing with in 2022 is not going to be this team. It's not going to be a defensive line with DJ Jones being one of the starters and K'Wan Williams in your secondary, and like guys like there will be a lot of turnover. The Ross Dwellys, a lot of these guys that have been around through this team are going to walk, and they're going to rebuild this team, and they're going to have money to do it because their quarterback is very cheap. So if you're building towards that, to me, this season was always about just develop him and get him his experience. If you win 9 games with Trey Lance starting, to me, that's a bigger win than winning 11 and losing in the first round of the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo. That's what I felt.
Real quick, let me say why, because it seems to me if you want Trey Lance to start next, it seems like that's the plan. Like, look, we're going to give Jimmy 1 more year, and then we'll trade him at the end of the year because he's going to do great, and then we'll start Trey Lance next year. How can you really just move on from Jimmy next year if Trey Lance didn't play really much this year? I mean, now he's just a young guy who hasn't played in 2 years, and he still might not be ready. How do you make that? It doesn't seem like an easy transition to make if he sits all year.
Yeah, but
Like you're
I don't know
stuck in
why
this
people
limbo
think
forever.
I don't. Yeah, but I don't know why people think they can't compete with Trey Lance. Like they can't. The 49ers can't compete with Jimmy Garoppolo if they can't run the football and play good defense. So sure, they can't compete with Trey Lance if they do that. But they're not an equipped team. I've been saying this when people ask me, what is the worst thing about the San Francisco 49ers? They're not a good drop back pass team. They cannot compete if the game devolves to where you just have to drop back and make big
You know
boy
what that
throws in the
means?
pocket.
They don't play well from
Yeah.
behind.
Yeah. So if you're telling me that that's their issue, well, I don't care. Like I think they can compete with Trey Lance at quarterback, even given the things we saw in preseason, because I think there's ways you can protect your quarterback. I just watched a game in Chicago where Matt Nagy did absolutely nothing to protect his rookie quarterback. I'm watching Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson have the full game plan put on them because their teams are so bad around them. Those two guys have to carry those teams in order for them to win. Yeah, their numbers look bad because they have to make every play on every single drive. They have to make every single play. It's an impossible ask of a young quarterback. These are the kind of things that make quarterback stats misleading. And
Well,
and then
Vish, let
you
me
see
ask you
Mac
this.
Jones.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. If the Niners, let's say they lose the next two games, I'm not saying they will. They could win the next two games.
Mm-hmm.
If at what point is it no longer justifiable to start Jimmy Garoppolo, even if if he plays the exact same way? It's not that he's gonna bench himself. It's just that you're not winning anymore. If it were to come, let's say they're 2-3 at the bye. Let's say they're 2-3 at the bye. Do you make the switch at that point just for the sake of
When they do make the
we're
switch,
not
you know what
winning?
I think will happen? They'll start trading people. They'll start trading veteran players if it gets to that point. If
Got it.
they're two and
Got it.
three, a
Then
lot of
they
these
trade
one-year
people at the
contract
bye and
veteran
they make the
players will
switch.
get sent
Yeah.
somewhere to contenders who, really need a really good player.
Can you name
And
me
a
one
lot of
one
these
contender off the top of your head who would be a contender to get traded in such a scenario?
DJ Jones,
Ha! Interesting.
defensive tech, healthy Kwan Williams.
I don't know if he's healthy. He hurt his calf.
I'm
That's
saying a
connected to the
healthy. That's
Achilles.
another player that
Yeah.
people will
Yep.
trade
Yep.
for.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
There's a
That's
lot
true.
of players like that on this roster, veteran players on one-year deals that are really good. That contending teams, if they added them, especially given their contracts, and because a lot of these contracts are
Tart.
fittable for a lot of those teams, yeah, Tart would be another one of
Tart.
that caliber.
Yep.
Those would be the
Okay.
three. Those are three really good players that are
Yeah.
put in that sense. So, I mean, yeah, I think that would be a tough scenario because, again, I think this team is good. I think this team is going to make the playoffs. I still think this team they're 2-1. They're still a good football team. There's no doubt about that. But look at this division. Look at the division in 2019. You had rookie Kyler Murray. You had the Rams. That was the worst iteration of the Rams under McVay. They had rebuilt their offensive line. They lost Roger Saffold. Todd
Right.
Gurley had lost himself and
Right.
all of that. And they rebuilt on the fly and still went 9 and
Yeah.
7.
It was
And
a
then
down year for the division to an extent.
And
Yeah.
Seattle was kind of where Seattle is. This
Yeah.
Rams team is the best Rams team under McVay. It's comparable to 2018. Heck, it might be better than 2018. And the Cardinals are a lot better today than they were in 2019. So winning in this division is not the same as winning in this division in 2019. So I think there's a lot of factors that people didn't take into account.
When
It's
do they
not
make
the
the switch?
Niners. Yeah. I
When do they
mean,
make the
I
switch?
at this point, please don't put me on that spot because I have no clue what's happening at this
No,
point.
okay, no. I want to ask it like this. Not. Don't make a prediction. Just at what point, if you were running this, not if you were running the show, but at what point, from an outsider's perspective, do you feel it becomes no longer justifiable to start a well-meaning, solid veteran quarterback? I mean, when they're 2 games under 500, 3 games under 500, if it gets to that, like where does it have to get to the point where it's like, well, we're just wasting our time at this point,
At
even though
this
you're
point,
playing
I
fine.
don't know because I watched the first drive. I watched the game against Philly where you're missing a wide open outcut to Mo Sanu that you got to make. You're missing Brandon Ayuk over the middle of the field on a little dagger route that again you got to make. And I see throws like that, and it's like at some point, like we're always talking about the excuses, the factors. Josh Sweat was in his face. He's got to make that throw, and that's where I sit and I think how bad do you think Trey Lance can be if you think that if you don't even want to give him a chance and see what he
Like,
can do. They
is
won't
he
even
just going to
see.
fumble the snap? Because Jimmy did that. I don't know. It seems to me that if they're at 2 or 3 at the bye, they got to really think about this. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I would do it, but I mean, it's not about, and it's really not about how Jimmy's playing anymore. It's how the team is playing and the fact that this guy's supposed to be the starter next year.
It's not even the fact to me that they're not good, right? They're still good and they're good with Jimmy Garoppolo playing. But the question is, how good do you think you can? How much do you think you can maximize this team? And I think there is a ceiling to how much you can maximize this team. I mean, go watch the Rams play football.
Yeah.
Where are the
Now, listen.
49ers better than the Rams?
Yeah.
Through the first 3 games, we've seen both those teams. They have
Yeah.
better tight ends, better linebackers. That's it.
Yep. Okay. Let's
And
move
better
on to the
safeties.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the defense, and then we'll take the questions at the end. Pass rush struggling. This one surprised. I think most Niner fans thought this game was in the bag just looking at the Packers beat up offensive line. They're like, oh, third string left tackle, Nick Bosa, 5 sacks, easy. But that's not how it played out. 1 sack, 2 quarterback hits for the entire team. And that really, really shows the stark difference between this defense and the one in 2019 that just ran through the Packers routinely. Why is this happening? What happened to the pass rush? Happened to Bosa?
It's well, first of all, Rodgers was getting out of the ball out of his hands quick. They were able to run the football, so they had a good plan. This was the most successful they've been, so that's part of it. And two, this defensive line is just good now. It's not amazing. It's not one of one. And the issue with this defensive line being not one of one is that they've invested so much in this defensive line and so little at the cornerback position. If this defensive line isn't just suffocating teams, this defense can be had a little bit. And so I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think the pass rush is struggling because I think they have only 2 guys that are consistently winning, and one is Nick Bosa, and then the other guy is Eric Armstead. Samson Ebukam, who they signed to make an impact, has made little to no impact. DJ Jones is still a very solid player, but he's not impacting the game big time as a pass rusher. Javon Kinlaw has been in and out of the line. I don't think Javon Kinlaw is fully healthy today. I still don't think so. I think that's why he's questionable.
I think they
That's
would
why
tell
he's not
you that.
practicing
I think
through
they
the
would
week.
tell you that.
Yeah. So I think Javon Kinlaw isn't fully healthy. D Ford, who was the special get for them, Nick Bosa and D Ford. That's what changed this defense in 2019. I mean, look at all he's gone through. Like, the fact that D Ford is playing is great, but obviously he's not impacting the game the way D Ford can. Because when D Ford impacts the game, that's what makes that defense. That's what made that defensive line special in 2019. Because you had 2 guys in Buckner and Bosa who were essentially unblockable. You had Armstead, who's this very, very good all-around player, and then you had this guy in D Ford that's just instant pressure against any tackle in football, and that made life for quarterbacks very difficult because you're stepping up right into D Ford, moves the quarterback off his spot within the
So now you're
first couple
stepping up into
seconds of a
Buckner.
play, and you're stepping up into Bosa and
Buckner,
Buckner and
Armstead,
Armstead,
Bosa,
and it becomes so difficult to even see because Buckner and Bosa or Buckner and Armstead are so big. But so I think a lot of things like that is different. I think the depth is definitely lacking. I think people thought the depth was better than 2019, but I think the 2019 depth was better. Guys like Ronald Blair, to me, contributed and played better than some of the guys that are playing right now. I think Jordan Willis is a piece that looked real good this offseason. Maybe he can come off and have an impact. But outside of Nick Bosa, there's nothing off the edge that this team offers.
There's a lot of factors. You laid them out beautifully. I think the most important factor here is the loss of Buckner. I think what we're seeing here is that if you just had Buckner and Bosa, you could have a really good pass rush. Those two work in tandem. You can put them next to each other, the kind of the way that the Niners did with Alden Smith and Justin Smith. But once he's gone, now all that, because when he played, even though he only had, I think, 7.5 sacks in 2019, people said he had a down year. Armstead had more sacks than him. Bosa had more sacks than him. He got a lot of attention. He consistently got double teams. And now that he's gone, that attention goes to Nick Bosa. And it's going to have a negative impact on his numbers because now he's just getting less one-on-one matchups. It's not his fault. That's the domino effect.
He's still playing it, he's still playing
at
a high level. That's the thing.
He just gets less one-on-ones.
It's just that the team, they're just not as good around him this year. And it's unfortunate because the issue for this team is it's not that this pass rush, I think everything's been an overreaction. It's not that this pass rush isn't good. It's still a good pass rush. The issue is they have invested so little at the cornerback position and they are down so far. They're down bad at the cornerback position. I mean, having to start
we're going to talk about that
Norman, and Lenore isn't ideal. And because they're down so bad at the corner position, unless this pass rush is truly dominating games, really great quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers were getting the ball out of their hands and knowing where to go with the football and just dictating matchups against these cornerbacks, especially when you're not fooling him in any type of way. You're just lining up and playing man. You're just lining up and playing zone. Makes it very, very difficult for, the defense to be elite. It can only do so much. And even that, the defense did very well yesterday.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about the run defense, though, and Fred Warner. The Niners this year giving up 4.7 yards per carry. That's high for them. They were really good against the run last year. Also, Fred Warner, still a hell of a player, but I can't help but notice that I felt he was better the last 2 years, that he was outrageously special in 2019 and 2020. And, like last night, the big throw to Adams, the first one on the final drive. We'll talk about that in a minute. They call quarters, and I think the reason that Ryans would feel comfortable with that is, if you want to throw over the middle, that means you got to throw over Fred Warner. And he did. And, Warner was kind of late getting that into his drop. He probably could have got more depth. There was no one in front of him. It was a clear pass. And he just didn't quite get back there, where I felt like last couple of years, he was always a step ahead of the play. So Warner in particular, run defense in general, what are you seeing here?
I think the run defense, I think they have an issue in the sense that when they play split safety, and they played a lot of split safety yesterday, they're always down a gap in the run game.
Yeah.
And
there's no one two gapping.
Yeah.
There's no one accounting for two gaps. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that have broken down this defense, but it's the Fangio-Staley defense. They're known for playing split safety, and they're really the defense in the modern NFL. And Rich Madrid, who I think everybody here would know because he's on Niners Twitter, he's done a breakdown, but a lot of people in general have done a breakdown, and they call it stealing a gap back in the run game when you're playing split safety. They anticipate certain runs, and they fit runs a specific way in order to account for the fact that they're playing with a lighter box than a team who's playing single high, who is dropping their safety down into the box to give them that 8-man Seattle box, which makes it very difficult to run on because they account for every gap with really good players. So I think that's kind of their problem. I think that when they're playing split safety, because of the way they're fitting these runs, it's an automatic 5 yards every time. If you just look up and see split safety, you can just turn around and hand the ball off, and there's going to be one gap available that's not accounted for. And good running backs like Aaron Jones is going to make things happen when he does have that available space. And then your issue is if they go to any sort of single high, it turns into one-on-one on the outside against corners that, struggle, are not the most gifted. They're competing, they play hard, they do the best they can, but playing one-on-one against Devontae Adams is a bad situation for anybody not named Jalen Ramsey. So it's a really tough spot that way. I think Fred Warner, more or less, I agree with you. It just feels like he's a step, maybe, I wouldn't say slower, because he still
Not
looks
slower.
every bit like Fred Warner, but the reaction time maybe doesn't feel as elite as it was. But I just think it's just the growing pains of, a couple small tweaks in their coordinator, and the fact that they have a less experienced coordinator. I think the one thing that made Robert Saleh really good, and I want to talk about this, the one thing that made Robert Saleh really good, especially the last 2 years, is one, obviously the Niners defense was very comfortable playing within their defense, but they were also very comfortable defending offensive staple concepts within their offense. Like with their defense, the way they were going to play it, they always were ready for what an offense does in the run game, what an offense does in the pass game. And they would come out and they would just take that all away. They did it to the Rams and McVay. Their staples, they just did it. The second time they played Kyler Murray, their staple concepts, they just take it away. And Fred Warner, and was one of those players that was just all over it. And I just think that maybe they're not as well game planned, and who can expect them to? Robert Saleh was very, very good. And DeMeco Ryans right now, this is his first year. He might become as good a game planner as Saleh, but it's going to take some time. So I think that's part of it. And then I think, maybe I'm just guessing. I think there just might be a little too much on Fred Warner's plate at this point.
I got a theory too. This is something that I've been thinking about, talked to a coach about. It's an interesting concept. We talked about this with Jared Goff and Sean McVay. Like, they made a big point about it. Remember, McVay can talk to Goff in the helmet until there's 15 seconds left on the play clock, then they shut it off. And McVay was giving a lot of direction. It wasn't just a play call. It was like, look for this. If you see this, do this. I don't know, but it seems like maybe there was some of that going on with Robert Saleh. I wouldn't put it past Saleh. He wouldn't talk about it, but he's that smart. He's that level. And I just wonder if that's part of losing Saleh, is that communication pre-snap. I'd love to know. It's something that popped in my mind. I'll be a journalist. I'll find out. I'm not asking you to confirm it. I'm just saying it popped in my mind. I wonder because you hear about it on offense. You hear about it with
I
coaches
think
and
that's
their
I think
quarterbacks.
that's a thought, but honestly, I don't buy it as much because you do see Fred Warner making a lot of checks later in the
True.
clock, especially today or in Sunday's game and stuff. I don't know. I just think that the transition of a coordinator, all of that, I think people are so ready to jump on. But defense's regression is just a natural thing in the NFL. Like today, the Carolina
I'm just
Panthers
saying the
defense looked elite.
pre-snap communication is an interesting variable wrinkle because you talk about it on offense.
No,
We,
it's definitely
yeah,
possible.
yeah,
I don't mean to dismiss it. I think
yeah.
it's definitely a
Dare
possibility.
dismiss it.
It's
All
just
right, let's talk cornerbacks. Let's talk cornerbacks. Uh, they're a big problem right now, but it's not like they're underperforming. It's kind of the same discussion we had with Jimmy Garoppolo in a sense. We're calling this "Don't blame the cornerbacks." Why?
what are they supposed to do?
Yeah,
Like,
be
what do
better.
you expect? What
Yeah,
do you expect?
yeah.
Sorry, Diamador Lenore can't guard Devontae Adams. Shoot, man.
Wow.
Let's yell at
Wow,
Diamador
what a
Lenore.
shock. Because when he came out of Oregon, the scouting report on Diamador Lenore is going to
Patrick
shut down
Peterson, the next
Devontae
Patrick
Adams
Peterson.
one-on-one. And that's why he got picked in the 5th round.
Josh Norman, he was signed 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Emmanuel
Yeah.
Mosley is an undrafted player.
Yeah.
They have not addressed,
Yeah.
excuse me, the cornerback
Yeah.
position. This is not a fault of the players. The individual players are competing. They're playing hard. They're doing the best they can. They're
Yes.
just put in bad spots against good receivers because they have not invested in the cornerback position. They made one investment this offseason. That was to bring back Jason Verrett, who has 1 year in the last 4 years of playing football.
That's true.
He got
That's
hurt.
true.
Now
See,
what
to
are they
me,
going to
like,
do?
people keep writing into us like, hey, shouldn't they trade for so and so or shouldn't they get so and so? Like, this is the culmination of years of not taking this position seriously in the draft and free agency. More importantly, the draft. You
And
don't
they didn't even bring
draft
in
this position
veterans
high
too.
enough or often enough.
Right. This first of all, this position I've talked about it ad nauseum has to be picked in the top 50 picks for you to have a veteran caliber star or one of those big time caliber starters. And even if you draft one in the top 50 picks, it's such a bust heavy position. There's
Yep.
no guarantee that that guy is going to turn out because
Nope.
it's such a difficult position to play. You have to be the elite of the most elite athlete
Was
to
Jeff
start
Okudah
off
the
with.
3rd pick in the draft?
Jeff Okudah was the 3rd pick in the draft.
So
CJ Henderson was the 9th pick in the draft.
Yep. Yep.
So it happens. It happens. But then look at the real good ones. Alexander, 18th pick in the draft. Marlon Humphrey, 15th pick in the draft. Jalen Ramsey, 5th pick in the draft. That's where they go. They go at the top of the draft. Xavier Howard was 38th, I think. They just go with the Byron Jones was 27th. Name a good corner, he went in the
Eric
first 50
Stokes
picks.
was about 33rd.
Something
like that.
29.
29. Okay, sorry, 29. That would make a lot more sense.
So if you're getting a corner, he's going in the top 50 picks, but they just haven't invested in the position. I think one of the biggest things they did was they did not bring in veterans. They drafted 2 rookies and they put a lot on them to contribute because Emmanuel Mosley had an offseason that was filled with COVID and injuries. That you couldn't account for that. And basically they were expecting a 5th round rookie and a 3rd round rookie who didn't play football last year to come in and be real contributors on a team. Not a fair expectation, if you ask me. Obviously, you can't invest heavy in every position. And the Niners have put forward their resources and said, defensive line, offensive line, quarterback. Those are the 3 positions we're going to throw in everything. And then they put in a lot of draft capital into the receiver position that has not exactly panned out. But you have to have a little more investment, to me, in my opinion, in the cornerback position. I think there's been opportunities. There's some veterans that have played good football. Casey Hayward that weren't signed for a long time that you could have gotten and would, shore up that position maybe a little bit more with Jason Verrett not here and, not having to go to a Josh Norman, not having to now go to a Drake Kirkpatrick or a Dante Johnson who's a league journeyman because everybody loves jumping on him. Dante Johnson's a 5th round pick. Dante Johnson's a good special teamer.
Dante Johnson is exactly what we're talking
about.
Don't blame Dante Johnson for the loss, but at the same time, the fact that Dante Johnson is on the field, even on the team, it just says everything you need to know about how little priority the Niners place on this position. The fact that they're like, we got Dante, we're good. Should we spend a 2nd round pick on a corner? Nah, let's take a guard and re-sign Dante for the 18th time. Nothing against Dante personally, but that's on the Niners. Like, if you you don't have a Dante Johnson in your defensive line room. The way I see it, you have good players in that or guys that you really like, not guys who are like, well, he's just chilling on the couch, and if we cut him, he'll be back. What? Nothing against Dante, but it's a reflection
I
of the
can't blame
49ers.
them. I
Yeah.
can't blame them. At the end of the day, they played an all-time great quarterback and an amazing wide receiver. And the issue is that the expectation was that the Niners were just going to go in and shut them down and blow them out because they did that in 2019.
But you're saying that things don't change over time. Is that what you're trying to tell me? What? All right, last topic, and then we got to answer an hour's 45 minutes worth of questions. The critical errors at the end of the Packers game. Things happen fast. I'm trying my best after the game to assign blame, but then you sleep on it, you think about it, and you realize with football, it's always like 3 or 4 or 5 things. It's not like baseball where it's one pitch, one hit, one play, which is why I like football. So we all identified not taking enough time off the clock. That was where things got weird. So let's try to be as specific as possible. How could the 49ers have shaved 5, 6, 8, 10 seconds off of this clock before Aaron Rodgers touched the ball? I think it started with
Yeah, I mean, it's been tweeted out a few times. I'm sure everybody's seen it, but they had 12 seconds on the play clock when they snapped it. Once they were lined up, to me, that was a no-brainer. That's a Kyle Shanahan thing. Like, you got to tell your quarterback, snap the ball with 3 seconds. Because if he gives up those 9 seconds and Juszczyk still scores, I mean, you feel better with Aaron Rodgers 28 seconds and no timeouts than you do Aaron Rodgers with 37 seconds.
Even like you could tell him slap it at 7 seconds, whatever. But that's 5 seconds that you just shaved off. And I mean, they got that field goal off with 1 second left, I think.
Yeah. And I do want to say, like, were there critical errors? Absolutely. But to me, I cannot reiterate this enough. This is an all-time quarterback. The first throw to Adams against Quarters, can anybody else make that throw? How many guys?
No,
make
it was
that
a very
throw
no. It's good. It's good. Hold on, but let's go systematically here. Hold on. Let's not forgive them for their critical errors. We identify the critical errors, but we will. We'll put it in the proper context. It's Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. This is what they do. But first off, snapping it at 12 had nothing to do with Rodgers.
No, that's a
clock management issue with I would have to say Jimmy and Kyle. Okay, put them aside. Now we go to special teams. Someone brought this up earlier, and I had this epiphany too. The Niners Robbie Gould probably could have kicked the ball in such a way that forced the Packers to field it. And once you field it, the clock starts running, and that maybe you can shave off 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds. And again, how you could do that is a low power line drive kick. There's no one standing in front of the kicker because you could hit that guy and get the ball back. Low line drive kick, lands around the 30. They jump on it. Maybe they run a few yards. Basically, they probably get the ball at the same spot with 5 seconds. Mm-hmm. It's another way to shave a few seconds off the clock. I'm glad that someone else thought of the same thing. It's a creative idea. I feel like it's something you used to see back in the day. You don't really see things.
No, like yeah. I think kicking the ball through the end zone at that point was like, okay,
Yeah,
they want to
why? You want them to feel that
things can go wrong in that kick, or even lobbing it up and forcing the guy to return.
The reason I went with this over that is theoretically they could give a fair catch, but if it's at the 4-yard line, they're not going to do a fair catch. Anyway, there were ways that they could have shaved some seconds off on the special team. So that's another one. And then finally, the defense.
And I do want to touch on one more thing. Okay. Somebody brought it up in the comments. They had 3 timeouts and they wasted them. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan kept those timeouts for next game because they carry over. They could have slowed things down.
They roll over.
Once they converted that 3rd down to Deebo Samuel, which, by the way, I thought that was Jimmy Garoppolo's best throw of the game, and it was a hell of a catch on Jair Alexander by Deebo Samuel. Once they converted that, to me, I thought then they had the opportunity to kind of slow things down, take a deep breath, formulate a plan on how they want to attack this Packers defense and go about it that way. And I think I can't blame the players for going too fast because there's an adrenaline rush. There's a push of momentum. And Garoppolo did a real good job getting on time and on schedule to his check down, as Shanahan mentioned after the game, which was Juszczyk. And Juszczyk is a good catch, and it's a real good effort to get into the end zone. Like, can't blame them. But I don't think Shanahan had an idea because he said, "Oh, you're always thinking about it." Well, you have to think about it extra with Aaron Rodgers or
Right.
Patrick Mahomes. There's a reason John Harbaugh is going for the ball, going for it on 4th and 1 from his own 37 or 4th and 2, because you know
Right.
that that guy only needs 15 seconds to beat you.
Okay, so let's talk about the defense now, because I came down hard on D'Amico last night, and I feel like if you are going to come down hard on someone, you got to be really specific, saying what they did and what they should have done differently. So basically, there were two completions on the final drive. The first one was a longish one over the middle to Adams. The second one was a shortish one over the middle to Adams. The first one was a four-man rush with a standard cover four quarters coverage. That's four deep, three-man underneath. That's fair. I mean, it took a very good throw. Like Fred Warner's fingers were like an inch away from touching the ball. It was tough. But I'm saying, sorry, D'Amico, to second guess you, but I think the best call in that situation, knowing they're not gonna run, is two deep safeties, man underneath, not zone, because I don't want Devontae Adams getting a free release at the line of scrimmage. I don't want him just prancing through my defense and then trying to make a play at the catch point. I want a guy in his face at the line of scrimmage to slow him up, and then I want a guy trailing him everywhere with inside leverage to make the in-breaking stuff difficult. And with two safeties over the top, I think that's always the best way to defend Aaron Rodgers if you don't have to worry about the run. That's always the best way to defend Aaron Rodgers. So I just disagreed with that one call there. But that's
No,
only half
I
of it.
mean, it's fair. Two man is a very standard call for that
Very standard.
situation.
Yeah.
It's a but we've also seen situations where, I mean, people are trying to play two man against Derek Carr and his Raiders at the end of games the last 3 weeks, and Derek Carr has just been ripping up two man with not the greatest receivers. So to be fair, I do think that it was kind of a situation where if Rodgers to me is just the kind of player where at times there just might not be a right call, because they could have gone two man and Adams might still have gotten open on an in-breaking route somehow because he's Devontae Adams.
No, of course,
And
I'm not
Rodgers
saying
might
that
have,
that's like
yeah,
if you call two man, then that's 100% possibility that
right,
you could.
right.
I'm just saying I think you would have to say that's a better call in that situation. And then finally on the second completion, I think the call was right, is what I wanted to say. In retrospect, we're like, what happened? Well, when I filmed it from the press box and I'm watching it, it looks like a bracket double coverage on Adams. It's a 3-by-1 with Adams on the left and three guys on the right. And everyone on that side, covering that side, is in two deep man under technique. I mean, there's inside leverage. That's what they're playing. On the backside, you have Adams. Of course, you want to double Adams, right? That's the right call. And so you have Lenore playing outside leverage, taking away the comebacks, the outs. And I think what they had was Dante Johnson at free safety. It was a defense they don't use very much because it was third down, and I don't know if it was third down, but they had Ward in coverage, so at the line of scrimmage, Tart and Johnson deep, and I think it was a bracket of Lenore and Johnson on Adams, and Johnson was just not in the area code. I don't know what happened on that, but I think Johnson was the one who messed up. I could be wrong. See what Shanahan says.
Yeah, I mean that's
I
interesting.
think it was the
I
right
didn't get
call.
to see it. I didn't
I
get
think
to
it was the
see it
right
because
call.
they also
Yeah.
didn't have a replay, like the replay of the previous play. You can see clearly they're in quarters, and he
Anyway,
just ripped an incredible ball. But I mean, it's possible. I do
possible.
agree. I do agree with it, and I do think there is a level of at times we just overanalyze when the 49ers lose, because for whatever reason when the 49ers lose, and I'm not saying you, but I'm saying fan base in general, it's immediately sky is falling, fire this guy, fire this guy, fire this guy. And the reality is, like, for whatever reason 49ers fans can't admit that other teams are good, other teams have good players, and other teams have good players that can make good plays against them, and sometimes that just happens.
Yeah.
Like there's times, there's just nothing you can do, like the Jimmy Garoppolo pick, backside corner and quarters, running to the far hash and making a play on the ball. Well, that's why Jair Alexander's an all-pro. So why Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. These things to
Right.
me are the things that I'm not saying you again, because it's your job to talk about it and
Well, I'm
analyze
quality control, and it's my
Yeah,
job to make sure these things don't happen again.
right.
I'm just being, I don't know. I'm just doing my job. All right, we have
You are doing your job.
a lot of questions to answer.
And
Let's
I
do our
do
best.
want to mention one thing. The call, one thing I do want to mention about D'Amico Ryans, because I know he's taking a lot of flack. There is a matter of execution. The call on the Marquez Valdez-Scantling touchdown, it's a great call. Diameter Lenore is right there. He just didn't get enough depth. That's a pick. It's a great defensive call.
Okay.
Sometimes those type of things happen.
Okay. Jerome Duchette says, "How did we not play Lance when Sermon is only able to hit the A gap? Shanahan's ego seems to get in the way of common sense." Yeah, I don't understand how Kyle. What was the point of doing that stuff with Trey Lance in the Raider game, the preseason game? Was that just to troll everyone? What was that? What was the point?
You know what? I don't think I have no
Waste of
clue.
time.
I'm telling you,
What
this
was that?
situation, everything that's happened this offseason, them floating the idea of the true two quarterback system, Jimmy Garoppolo admitting that they flirted with the two quarterback system, and then what they've actually ended up doing this offseason and all of that, it makes no sense. We're all waiting for this massive reveal, and I think the reveal is going to be a letdown.
Yeah, it's like that show Lost from when I was in college. I don't know if you remember that one. Nate says, Why is it Kyle only wants to put Trey in to boost Jimmy's ego in situations where we need to win? Why is it Kyle only wants to put Trey in to boost Jimmy's ego in situations where we need to win? I don't follow that one.
I don't either.
I'm sorry, Nate. I don't get it. I don't see it the same way. I'm sorry, but I appreciate you. Willie says, you can't have a good running game when nobody is scared of your quarterback. I think there is something to that. It's hard when there's 9 in the box and you can't back anyone up. Typo, I meant day one. Oh, that was an hour
What
ago.
was this question again?
I'm sorry. That was an hour ago. My bad.
It was a question we talked about for a little bit. It was a good question.
I think we did. Had another $5. Had to add another $5 off GP. Man, we're way behind. Thank you. Anoop says, hey, what's up, Anoop? Jed York and John Lynch have to push Kyle to insert Trey as starter, or this season will be a waste. Niners must address poor decision-making across the organization. At a certain point, they have to play Trey, even if Jimmy's playing well. And it has to do with their record. If they still want him to start next year, I don't know if they still want that.
I didn't get to say this because it just didn't fall in line with what we were talking about. But you want to talk about something that doesn't make sense to me to go with it. They are acting like they're a win now Super Bowl team, but they were a win now Super Bowl team that didn't need their future and invested in a first round player not to help them win now today.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Your first round pick was for the future.
Yeah.
And your next 2 picks aren't contributing. You're not in win now mode. Really? I mean, no, not to the same extent that the Rams are.
Really, if they were a win now team and they made the trade up for Trey Lance, or if they thought, then they would be playing Trey Lance right now because they're trying to win now and they trade up for him because he helps them win now. The Rams traded for Matthew Stafford because he helps them win now.
Right.
But yet they're trying to be a win now team, but I don't know what they're doing with Trey Lance. But a win now team, this roster isn't so good where they didn't need the help of a first round pick this year and they can still win now. And you can't have your cake and eat it too. It's one or the other.
Preston Reynolds says Lance would make a lot of mistakes and is not a starter, but put him in as a decoy. Please, Grant has been saying this and is 100% right. Like, again, that's what they did with the Raiders. He went in the game and handed off a ton of times. And it was basically, I don't know, to be a decoy. Now, they're going against backups and stuff, but you did it in a preseason game. You can't do it now when your offense is averaging 4.5 yards per play. I mean, Jeep Chris looks at that and is like, man, that sucks. 4. Dang, I could do better. I could get 4.8. I don't know. So, yeah, I understand it. Like, you flirted with it. You did it in training camp. I was there. You did it in training camp. You did it in preseason. Now it's like, oh, man, now it's all we got. Strange. Super strange. Matthew says, how do we get Jimmy out of town? Pack had 5 trips to the red zone and gained 13 points. We could have been blown out. Jimmy would have had no shot. Keep his numbers looking good. And, hope someone offers a first-round pick by the deadline. I just don't see it happening, man. No one has the cap space to trade for him right now. And I think they know it. If they trade him, it's next year when the cap goes back up theoretically because of revenue. Leo says it's just such an embarrassment on how these defenses ain't even worried about Jimmy. We are doing these teams a favor by starting Jimmy. We need Trey. I always felt like if I was an opposing defensive coordinator and you asked me, who would you rather face? I'd be like, Jimmy. Are you kidding?
I mean, I don't even mind that because, again, at this point, like, people are veiling it as a criticism of Jimmy Garoppolo. Kyle Shanahan is the one starting Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't start himself.
I like that. David says, def blame Jimmy for the loss. Got off another slow start that kept the D on the field longer than necessary, then fumbled to create a dire situation. It's a fair way to put it. It's funny, like you could look at this game in a whole lot of different ways. You could put it on the offense, you could put it on the defense, put it on special teams.
But my thing is,
put on the coaches.
we all are aware now of Jimmy Garoppolo's flaws, and we know that he's capable of doing exactly what he did last night because we saw it a million times over in 2019. Why is he starting? That's not Jimmy's decision.
Official BNA Music 88 said it at 2:18. He preempted us. Left 12 seconds on that play clock. Yup, he sure did. AG says, I heard that Norman was hospitalized yesterday due to a chest injury. Williams also went out due to injury. Any latest on update on both? Shanahan talks in 50 minutes. That's why we're talking in fast motion, because we probably have like 40 comments, and I got to get to Shanahan's press conference soon. But we'll find out. Broderick Jones says 3 first-round picks for Lance and top 4 picks this year that aren't contributing, so why not give all that draft capital up for Stafford? You can see Vish's face right now. It's like, yeah, that's what I try to say. No one listens to me. I got to get you a quality control jacket, then they'll listen. Carl Zion says, isn't it fair to the rest of the offense if Kyle is only accommodating to Jimmy's limitations?
Well, it's okay to accommodate to his limitations, but since Trey Lance is a rookie, you can't accommodate to his limitations.
Good point.
When Jimmy Garoppolo reads leverage the wrong way, or throws the ball backwards, it's just a bad play. When Trey Lance does it, it's bad, lack of experience. He's a rookie. He's 21.
Ollie says we should have ran the ball. We had 3 timeouts. Kyle had zero faith in his running game in this game. Zero faith, zero confidence. He didn't have a running game in this game. I don't know what you would say his bread and butter run play was, to use a terrible cliche. Sorry, Dad. I called out my dad last night.
How
I forget what I said, but he called me in the morning. He goes, you called me out. I was like, sorry. I think it was about Jimmy. Tony says, how has Shanahan's scheme to overcome the run blitz in the past? Seattle, KC, now Green Bay have employed the run blitz to neuter the zone run.
They're not exactly blitzing because he's talked about it in the past, especially a team like Baltimore that does run blitz to give up the Seattle plan, especially they blitzed Bobby Wagner in the A gap. That was their plan. That was a little different. But when teams do run blitz, Shanahan's talked about how we can hit explosives when they run blitz, because it's just about, do they blitz the right hole or the right side or whatever.
Right.
Green Bay actually just played a sound front.
Yeah, and that's
they
what the
straight up set the edge. Yeah,
because what you do is, if you set the edge on both sides, it's hard. You can't run to the perimeter. And then if you play 3 guys in the interior between them, you can't double team. Like, the whole thing is the Niners offensive linemen aren't big and mauling. But if you get 2 of them together, you can move people. And by alignment, it's hard to get the double team. So you really have a lot of one-on-one matchups, and the Niners aren't winning those because they're not invested in those kind of offensive linemen. King Voss says this game laid bare the fact that the philosophy of Kyle and Lynch is out of step with the current NFL. Trying to moneyball at cornerback will get you lit up. I'm with that, man. I feel it's old. It's old school. I think every year cornerbacks become more and more important as teams spread out. End of story. Ali said, I heard it. We should have been running the ball at the end of the game. Oh, yeah. Sorry. We got that. 3 timeouts. Yep. Definitely had 3 timeouts. Kiefer Smith, Juice TD. There was like 12 seconds left in the play clock. Wonder if that's on JG or Kyle. Obviously, still no guarantee Green Bay doesn't get in field goal range, but much better chance. Interested to see what Kyle says today on the conference call about that, because he didn't talk about that in the post-game press conference. I don't think anyone.
He'll say that all went through his head. You definitely think about those things, but in that situation, you're just trying to score. I guarantee you that'll be his answer.
Well, I can't wait for you to get that right.
I mean, you're always thinking about things.
I think
you're definitely thinking about things.
I think about everything every time I wake up. And before I go to bed, I think about my whole life. Lambo504 says, do you think Kyle is not playing Trey because he would take the starting role permanently? BLM sticker on Trey helmet play a part in him not playing. Whew. See, this is, I don't know. I couldn't even begin to say. But what's interesting is how fans create reasons. I mean, it's so inexplicable that any reason seems plausible. And this is where your fans are right now, Kyle. Like, what is the reason? Because I don't know. But Lambo, Kyle, this is the situation you created. 501 Club Kenny says, I think Kyle got robbed for his bag because he ain't in it. I like that. Diehard 49ers 101 says, does Kyle realize that play action only works when the defense believes you're actually going to run the ball? Kyle abandoned the run in the first half. Why not
I
try
mean, it's
another running
analytic.
back?
True, but there are higher level analytics, and this is one of my favorite things because I'm also a nerd. To go with the fact that I do really like watching football and stuff, there are a lot of analytics that prove that there's no correlation between how your run game is doing and play action. I'm
It's
not
true.
saying it's
It's more just how well like the plays, how much they look alike, really.
yeah.
Eli says our running game would have been Lance outside the tackles. Kyle, what are you doing? Draft a top corner for once. Eli gets it. Eli gets it. Eli is now quality control for the 49ers. You're on the team. You just got hired.
Get him
Mark
his
said,
jacket.
yeah, you're on the team. Mark says, isn't it better if we just start Trey now? Jimmy doesn't perform well without a run game and is average at best. At least Trey has the threat to run. I don't think you bench Jimmy now, but I do think these next two games are important, not for Jimmy, like that he needs to prove something, but the team needs to prove that they can win with Jimmy. And if they can't, then it's time for them to give up on this revival tour and accept the
Well,
future. It's on the team at this point.
it's again the next games. I think it's a little bit different. I think the next games are important for the reasons you said, but a bit more than just that. It's not again. This team is good. They're capable of making the playoffs, and they're capable of doing it with Jimmy Garoppolo. The thing is that this division is so good that starting 0-2 in this division would be so less than ideal. You know,
Good point.
it would be a big mountain to climb in terms of the AFC playoff picture because you still got to
It'd be
play the
terrible.
Rams twice. Yeah.
It would be terrible. Don says if Jimmy is going to give up 2 turnovers a game, why not give those turnovers to Trey, who has massive upside over Jimmy? It makes no sense. That is an interesting point.
Well,
Yeah.
because when Jimmy turns the football over, it's because he's ready, he's experienced.
Yes.
But when Trey Lance turns the football over, it's because he's inexperienced and he isn't ready.
Thank you. That very well put. Jaeger 805 says after the game in Trey Lance presser, reporter asked if the team is used to Trey coming in for Jimmy. Sounds like Trey is trying to assert himself.
Trey Lance had a presser after this game?
He did. He actually did have a presser. It was kind of like,
really?
what are we supposed to ask you about? You played for a
2
second.
seconds.
Like what? Take us through that first play. Okay, now take us through the other one. Okay, thank you.
How did it feel when you had to come in for the first play?
How
How
was
did it
going
feel when
through
you
your
had to come
mind
in for the second
the
play?
second time you were on the field? When you spent the rest of the game on the sideline, how did that feel? Did you like that? Was that fun? Has your agent considered? I'm just kidding. Michael says, I knew it was going to be a long night when we started the game in the shotgun. That's exactly what I said. There is something about Kyle. It's a tell. When he starts the game in the shotgun, to me, the message is, I don't believe in my identity today. I don't know what we are today. We're going to try to do something different today. And I know it's because they didn't have running backs, and that's what he felt he needed to do. And he did it week 1 against Arizona because they didn't have centers. But when they're in the shotgun, play 1, to me, it signals weakness or lack of confidence in in the ability to win that game. Michael, I noticed it too, man. I'm with you. Vish, you don't have to co-sign it. I'm just saying, Michael, I noticed it too. Michael, you and I, like this, right here. Vish over here, like, I don't know, guys. I don't know about that one. I don't know. Okay, moving right along. Okay. Sat 4th row Eagles game by Lance's family. For real?
Cool.
You should have seen Shanny when we got blown off the ball the first 3 drives up the middle. Why is this happening every game? Man, I thought you were going to say something about Lance's family, man. What's up with that?
Yeah, me too. I thought that was
I don't know why
real
it's
cool.
happening every game, man. Sorry. I don't know. Going. Dude, there's so many. Okay. Do you think Lynch being an ex-player and being in the locker room makes him agree with the players about staying loyal to Jimmy? I don't know about that, man. I don't think it's up to. It seems like he says a lot of nice things about Trey. He was saying things in the preseason like Trey's making it very hard on Jimmy. Didn't he say stuff like that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't say that he prefers. I mean, his career's tied into Trey Lance now too, though. Skylar says, I think if you add a star cornerback, this D becomes unstoppable. Too many good wide receivers in the West to be lacking at that position. I also think Fred had a bad game. How you getting a star cornerback, though? Trade some first-round picks?
They did. You have to draft one again in the top 50 picks and hope he's the one that pans out and not, Jeff Okuda type and not a Justin Gilbert. But at the same time, they did have one in Jason Verrett. They just didn't invest in anything. My issue is not, look, cornerback depth doesn't exist in the NFL, and I've said it before. There's 64 corners starting in the NFL. Not all 64 are starting caliber. Very few teams have multiple starting caliber corners. There's no doubt about all these things. It's like offensive line play. It's very difficult to find good corners. The issue I had is there were a lot of veterans available this offseason who weren't signed for a long time, who the Niners could have invested in to improve their depth rather than relying upon a third-round pick who was drafted outside of the top 100, who has not played football in a year, and a fifth-round pick.
I know how the Niners can get a cornerback and fix their problem. Niner fans,
How?
I found the solution. Trade Nick Bosa. Do you want to do that? That'll do it. If you trade Nick Bosa, you can get a really good corner. Is it worth it? Do you want to do it? That's what it'll take. Corners are important. I don't even know if you could trade Ayuk at this point for a really good corner. Like Bosa. That's the position you're in. That's how hard this is right now. That's what we're talking. I don't think you want to do it. I'm guessing you don't want to do that.
I don't
think you want to do that. I'm just saying, I don't think you want. So that's what we're talking. Blaine says, I'm later to this stream than the Niners offense was to the game, but do you believe the defense could win the Niners a playoff game? I'd say no.
No, it's not an elite defense anymore. It's just a really good defense. But guess what? The Packers defense stinks. We're out here talking about the Niners defense. They kept Rodgers to 13 points or 30 points, in spite of turning the ball over twice. Jared Goff had played well against that Packers defense.
Leo says
Jameis
everyone gets to make
Winston
rookie
played
mistakes
well.
except for Trey Lance. How odd. It is kind of odd.
He's 21 and a rookie, so everything his mistakes are attributed to inexperience and not being ready.
Yeah, Addie G
Like
says
Grant,
what?
Grant, today on a stream, like if you say something wrong, it's you just said something wrong. If I say something wrong, it's because I'm 21
You just weren't ready.
and inexperienced.
You weren't
and
ready and you're inexperienced. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same exact thing. Addie G says all the first-round quarterbacks have had a 3-pick game except for Justin Fields. That would destroy Lance's confidence.
Why? You're telling me if he has a 3-pick game at any point in his career, his confidence is going to be destroyed? Well, then
Jimmy had a 2-turnover game last night. Is his confidence destroyed? Jimmy had a 5-pick practice. He's still smiling. Luke Ainsworth TN says another factor why it was dominant in 2019. Sherman had his half of the field locked down. No one threw over there. Now we got a bunch of guys. Yeah, people really gave Sherman a lot more respect than I thought he deserved at that point in his career, but he got it. And now no one gets that on the Niners, and they're giving up big plays. Christopher says this team cannot improve until they stop realizing that it's no longer 2019. The opposition always catches up. It's happening to the Chiefs also.
Mm-hmm.
Got to keep evolving.
Chiefs, the iteration of the Chiefs team that won the Super Bowl, it has to change. And it will change next year. They've already started changing their core. They invested in Tooney and Orlando Brown. Frank Clark will be gone. The guys that will remain are Patrick Mahomes. Even Tyrann Mathieu could be gone. It'll be Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, Tyreek Hill, and Travis Kelce. Those are the 4.
Tony Nagatani says, has this Niners team changed your views on coverage versus pass rush? My views, I'm more of a coverage guy, but I think they're both very important. It's like you need both. The question is, how do you get them? To me, I think you can get pass rush in free agency. I think, of course, if a great pass rusher falls in your lap and it's the best player available, take them. But I think it's much harder to get good coverage in free agency. The shelf life is less. They don't play as well into their 30s, and they're super expensive, just like pass rushers. So I feel like I would draft coverage and sign pass rush as a rule. That's what Tampa did. Jason Pierre-Paul and Ndamukong Suh, all those guys free agency.
Shaq Barrett,
yeah. Because you can play. They're good in their 30s. Russ says, if you wonder why coach won't play Trey, look at how all the other high drafted rookies quarterbacks are doing. Lawrence, Wilson, Jones, and Fields all suck. It's a good point. My dad made that point. But I thought that the Niners were a better team, and the reason that
okay, I'm sorry, Grant.
Is he not set up for success here?
Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars go into every game with a disadvantage at every single position in coaching. Okay. Yep. Trevor Lawrence, if you put him on the 49ers, he would be playing a lot better football. Trevor Lawrence, the Jacksonville Jaguars,
were on the Rams,
entire game plan on Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has to make a play. This is what I'm talking about. These are the things people don't account for. Oh, Matthew Stafford threw interceptions in Detroit. Yeah, because Matthew Stafford had to make a play, every single play for Detroit to compete in football games. That's where Trevor Lawrence is. Zach Wilson, same exact situation. The Jets suck. They have lost a lot of very good players to injury, and they struggle. Their offensive line is not good. They don't have good receivers. They don't have a good defense. There's nothing there for Zach Wilson to work with. Mac Jones played really well week 1 versus Miami. He played okay week 2, and he struggled week 3 against a good New Orleans defense. It's going to be a little bit inconsistent, but you go with the ups and downs, and you want to go through Jimmy Garoppolo, who played really well week 1. He was up and down week 2, and week 3 he struggled a little bit versus a bad Green Bay defense. So what are we working with right here that's different? Number 4, Justin Fields. Matt Nagy did him zero favors in yesterday's game to build his confidence or anything. Kyle Shanahan is a far better coach than Matt Nagy. So you would think he would do much more for his rookie quarterback if he put him in the game, because we've seen how many times he's built confidence for Jimmy Garoppolo when he's come out struggling in games by giving him screens and other easy completions to pad his stats and make his stats look better and slowly build his confidence. That's one thing. Number 2, the Bears offensive line, if you want to talk about bad, the Bears offensive line can't block anybody. It's reminiscent of the Gabe Carimi, Jamarcus Webb offensive line that got Jason Campbell killed on that fateful Monday night. That was Colin Kaepernick's first start when Aldon Smith had 5.5 sacks. It sucks. So none of these situations apply to Trey Lance's situation.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm trying to say. The Niners are a better team. Come on, Kyle. Jeff says we are now seeing what happens when a front office fails to our needs. We've needed corners forever. We don't trade, sign, or draft top-tier corners. Yeah, I think that was back when we were talking about the corners, man. I'm with you on that. Then Ben says Asante Samuel Jr. This is back when we were definitely talking about the corners, Vish. Yeah, Asante Samuel Jr. 501 Club says, why trade our defensive leader captain in Buckner? I will never Adam says, if it weren't for the kickoff return, someone named Cannon, Niners probably go scoreless in the first half. It's hard to win games that way. That's true, man. The first half offense, the last 2 weeks, basically the offense in general, it's hard to fathom. Because even though Jimmy's limited, his numbers are fine. It's like, where is the run game? Okay, your running backs are hurt. I thought you had a never-ending, stable of running backs. What's up with this? It's the same problem as last year. Will says, I don't know how you can't blame the offense for this loss just as much as the D. We could not move the ball for the whole first half. It took special teams play to get us a jump start. Yeah, same thing.
I blame the offense for the loss.
I think what's so interesting about this game is that the blame is so evenly shared, and they should have won. They really should have won this game. I mean,
do you think so though?
I mean, it was
should score more than 28 points against this Packers defense at home.
If they snap the ball on the use check touchdown at 3 instead of 12, they win. That's what I'm saying. Like that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's a sobering loss, but at the same time, like they had it. It was in their control, the way I saw it. Those two.
I mean, I don't know. I give the defense a pass, for getting lit up for 255 yards by one of the greatest quarterbacks we've ever seen. They still kept him at 255 yards.
Yeah, I don't give the coach a pass.
The offense to me has no excuses for scoring 28 points and not scoring or basically scoring because of a kickoff return in the first half against a bad defense.
Vikrant S says we played our worst game of the year, and it took one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time to help them kick a last-minute field goal. Relax, guys, and falling. LOL.
Agreed.
Okay. 49er dude says, would it have been smart just had kept our 2 future first rounders and stayed put at 12, since it seemed like we're just going to develop a quarterback behind Jimmy Garoppolo like Fields or Jones?
Could have been. I don't know.
We'll have to see.
We'll see with the master plan. There's still 1% hope that the master plan is.
Did the Niners miss a golden opportunity not drafting Asante Samuel Jr.? I don't know if it was a golden opportunity, but it would have been a better pick than Aaron Banks, and he would have filled a position of need. So, yeah, kind of a golden opportunity. Todd says the largest thing was not squib kicking. Why not? Yeah, I wouldn't call it a squib kick. You want to make sure it gets past midfield. God. But, yeah, you want it to hit the ground. You don't want it to go straight into the end zone. I'm with you, Todd. But this is old school tricks. You got it. Matt says, thoughts on Ayuk's comeback game?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? He's still Brandon Ayuk, and he still looks far more talented than Trent Sherfield. He was trash all of a sudden. No? Yeah, I thought Trent Sherfield was better than him.
Yeah, what?
Great. Real quick, though, you know what I've come down to? What? I think Kyle Shanahan has seen 14,605 possibilities as to how this quarterback situation can play out, and only one of them ends in the 49ers winning the Super Bowl. And that's why this entire offseason and this entire sequence of decision making has been so bizarre. He's seen the one possible.
He knows. Yeah, the planets will align like they did 2 years ago almost. Jamal says Niners have shown they don't think cornerback is a premium position. It is. Can we call Carolina now and get Boye? I've been calling for this to happen. Thank you, Jamal. I
It's a
like that. The
sign.
It is. It is. I'm with you. What do you think, Boye?
Jason Fonte, he knows about it. Ask him how much he wanted them to sign Bouye.
Thoughts on not running the ball at all in the final drive with 3 timeouts? At least run a play action pass. Once again, little to no creativity on offense. I mean, it's hard to get mad because they scored the touchdown, but like, yeah, it was a little strange. Like, you had 3 timeouts, they had none. Like, style a little bit here. Like, choose how you score, can't you? I don't know. Should have paid the refs more. That is always an strategy.
I don't
Do the
really
refs
get it.
accept bribes? I don't think so. Is
No,
that what you're
no,
asking?
no. I don't get why every time the 49ers lose, we got to talk about the referees.
God love them. It's Monday and it's fans. I understand, but I feel you. Broderick Jones says, nah, I'm heated. All the draft picks we have riding the bench and gave up for Lance, but refused to use draft picks to get premium players. Ooh, when you put it that way, because the Rams are like, we're not even going to mess around. Let's just trade these picks for good players. And the Niners are like, no, we need to draft them. And then we need to not play them. The logical truth says, be careful what you wish for. The other rookie quarterbacks looking awful. It's not like Trey set the world on fire in the preseason. Okay. Well, I'm just saying, we'll see what happens. We'll see where the Niners stand. I'm not saying bench Jimmy Garoppolo. It's not what I'm saying. But let's see what happens where the Niners stand at the bye week. If they're 2-3, I fail to see the reason to start Jimmy Garoppolo in game 8.
Well, one quick question.
6.
I would like whoever's donating, you don't even need to donate. Just answer this question for me. How good would Jimmy Garoppolo, with all his experience, look on the New York Jets, the Jacksonville Jaguars, and the Chicago Bears?
He would look
In
extremely
yesterday's game for the
experienced.
Chicago Bears.
Not good.
Please,
MGM Production
tell me.
says that wouldn't look good. Why call outside zone plays for Sermon, not his game? Yeah, so he can cut back behind the A gap. Duh. Swan Song says, how many Niners losses until you are your father's son? Grant Cohn, quality control. Man, I've been my dad's son. I think Jimmy had a decent game. The INT was more of a better play than D, a bad throw. O-line played bad. Defense played poor. Yeah, I thought Jimmy had a decent game too. Go Jimmy. Swan Song says, how many losses until you become Lowell and Presser? Ooh, I don't know. Maybe one more. Maybe one. That was a good question. Grant,
Can you ask Jed York if he should fire himself?
Yeah, hey Kyle. Can you ask Kyle why the offense has struggled early in the last 2 games and what adjustments can be made? Sure. Absolutely. Maybe the simplest answer, rookies are losing. Okay. Jeremy Ownby says, is Kyle scared to start Lance? When will he remember why he wanted to replace Jimmy? The questions are nonstop. Kyle, you've lost your fan base. They just don't. They want to know what you're doing. They want to understand it. They want to see the reason, and then no one gets it. It's like Quentin Tarantino made a movie and everyone went and saw it because he made Pulp Fiction and it didn't make sense. And they're like, well, I think I got it. Did you get it? No, I didn't really get it. It's kind of like that. Anthony says, best part of the game was NBC playing Mac Dre instrumentals. Hyphy Grant better get grill Kyle at the presser. Did they really? I see. I don't get to hear the TV. I'm not. Yeah. All right. TJ
loving it.
Is it just me? Does it look like Trey really is not that fast?
No, he looks fat. He looks fast.
I think he's going to look fast when he's in the secondary, when he's in like the open field.
I'll say this. I think Chris Sims made this point where he questioned how good his running really was because his explosion relative to the FCS may not pop as much on the NFL field. And I will say I agree with that in the sense. I think Fields looks a more explosive and faster runner than him. I think Kyler Murray, obviously, Lamar Jackson do, obviously. I think, but he still looks pretty fast and explosive.
Yeah, I think he's going to be effective. Well, he hasn't even really broken a stride yet. He's been like jogging around and like short yardage stuff. Raymond Martinez, what's up, Raymond, says, what kind of urge is Kyle going to have to feel before he plays Trey in the first half when nothing is working? That's what I was like, dude, you're averaging 4.5 yards per play the last 2 games and you don't have the urge. I'd have the urge. I don't get it. So I don't know. We'll see what he says in the conference call. And we got to go fast, man. It's in 28 minutes. Hold on. Stop giving me money. We have to end the show. It's all about a winning culture. Seahawks are always expected to win and make the playoffs. How close are the Niners to a winning culture? Good point. It's something you can't quantify, but it's what Seattle has. And I don't think it's what the Niners have really, I don't know. Hard to say. The Niners have a 2019 culture. They're really stuck in 2019. It's all about a winning culture. Thank you. Carson says Trey is just as good as Jalen Hurts, maybe better. Also, why does Kyle have these drives where he won't even think about running the ball, even on 3rd and 1? I know, everyone. Niner fans, I'm with you on this guy. I feel the same way. Jan Evander Balin says Vish cussing last night is exactly what us pissed off fans needed. Raw and uncensored is where it's at. Good job.
I'm
Vish.
sorry for cussing. I didn't know that you were on YouTube.
It's okay.
And I don't even think I
Jimmy
was
Ward.
cussing. I was angrily cussing.
Sorry, Jimmy Ward normalized it on this channel. I said it last week. If they start slow in these next 3 games, they'd lose. Is this a Shanahan issue? Shouldn't he address the slow start trend? He will. We will talk. Thank you, 7NP. Any thought real quick since he donated $20 on what's the deal with that? Slow starts. Like
I think they're getting punched. I think they're getting punched in the mouth. Their plans, like I think they did not expect Green Bay to play the fronts they played.
And it all starts with them not being able to run the ball.
It was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is what they're doing. Oh crap. All right.
No. Oh crap. It wasn't what we read. It's not what we saw on film. It's because Green Bay did what worked, what they saw from the Eagles, and they're going to get a lot of that now. I think it all starts with the run game with the Niners, and if you don't have that run game going, it's a trickle-down effect with their offense.
Mm-hmm.
Vicious end game reference. Yeah.
I said the 14,605,000.
I didn't get it. Officiating was bad both ways. Niners didn't get effed. Yeah, there were some questionable calls both ways. Mike Mosley.
Jerome Boger is not the best.
Yeah. I'm sorry, but we need to bench Jimmy. 2 turnovers in a game. Stop supporting Kyle as he stinks as a coach. Demote him to OC and get a real coach. They had one. They let him go. Robert Saleh. That was a nice little combo. It's too bad.
Oh, really? I thought you were talking about Michael.
Hey, but they might reunite next year in New York. You never know. This guy says, what do you guys think drives the Jimmy G cult to viciously attack anyone that even remotely criticizes him?
I don't know.
I've never
see him
as a victim.
Like that.
They see him as a helpless victim.
I've never met fans like that. Yeah, you know what? I'm a Bay Area baller 18, absolutely. Grant out here talking about, I don't think the Packers are better than the Eagles.
For years.
I don't think Aaron Rodgers is that good. I think Aaron Rodgers doesn't have it anymore.
Hey, why you gotta bring up old stuff, Vish? God. You're right. I think you guys are both right. Thoughts on our defensive coordinator? I miss Saleh, man. Yeah, man. He ain't Saleh. That's all I'm gonna say. He's as good as he should be for a rookie defensive coordinator. Sam Darnold is 3-0. We could have gotten him to back Jimmy and keep our picks. Yeah.
Honestly, maybe. I mean, Sam Darnold is running Jimmy Gimmies in Carolina. They've very much simplified the offense. He's playing like a Goff or a Jimmy, which is what he needed. It instills confidence in him. But he's also playing good football.
We lost out on Stafford, and the Rams will be elite for the near future. Frowny face. Yeah. Definitely a frowny face with that one. And then Emery says, here's $5. And we caught up. We did the whole show. Thank you, Emery. Thank you, Vish. This was almost a 2-hour show, man. This was a marathon.
That Matthew Stafford guy is pretty good. And real quick, just shout out, Blake and I will be streaming at 8:30 Central Time, 6:30 Pacific. So if you guys want anything to do while watching the games, we'll be talking about maybe some more happier things in the 49ers. Of course, we'll talk Niners, Packers, but we'll talk about Justin Herbert, how good he looked, Matthew Stafford, how good he looked. I know everybody loves hearing me talk about Matthew Stafford. So if you're down to listen, Blake and VIsh Sports today at 8:30 Central, 6:30 Pacific.
That's right. And before the show is over, Mufasa says, give us a silver lining. They're 2-0 and they might be 3-1. They're 2-1. They might be 3-1 in a few days. How about that?
Yeah, they're still a good team. Like Trent Williams is having an all-time left tackle season 3 games into the season. Kyle Juszczyk looks good. They have a lot of really good players. They're still a good team, no doubt about it.
Yeah. There you go, Mufasa. Sorry what happened to you in The Lion King. That was messed up. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. It was a hell of a show. Probably one of the most watched Mondays with Vishes of all time. And we're just getting started this season. It's going to be a very interesting, long season, and we're going to be here to cover it. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you, and God bless.